is that insurance companies are going to give a lot more thought to how they're going to handle this, Rogers said. The judicial system could help provide some guidance, as is often the case in insurance claims. But because the recreational marijuana market is still so new, case law and precedent is scant. At some point, a denied claim is going to be challenged in court, and then we'll have better guidelines, Rogers said. In one case, the Washington Court of Appeals in 2010 ruled in favor of an unknowing landlord whose property was damaged with mold due to a then illegal marijuana growing operation. Recreational marijuana is now legal in Washington. We conclude the Tenants Act constitutes vandalism, for which there is coverage, the court ruled. The decision may give some comfort to landlords, but some insurance policies have since written policies to specifically preclude any similar events. The dynamic largely puts the onus on property owners to decide whether growing marijuana at home or allowing tenants to grow in rented apartments is worth the risk. For Diskin, her tenant's lease is up in the Salem townhouse, so she has told them it will not be renewed unless the grow is completely removed. She also plans to add language to all of her lease agreements, as she owns and rents 4 other properties, strictly prohibiting marijuana cultivation inside her properties. I don't want to lose my insurance, Diskin said. Under state law, landlords are allowed to prohibit the display, production, processing, manufacturing, or sale of marijuana or marijuana accessories on or in the property that the landlord owns, according to regulations established by the Mass Cannabis Control Commission. For landlords who want to prohibit home-growing operations, however, it may not be an imminent option, especially for those amid year-long or multi-year lease agreements that don't already include specific language. As for insurers, more answers on the issue will likely take time. There's not a lot of black and white to this issue. It's very much a gray area, and it's going to remain that way for a while, Rogers said. The next story is hundreds rally outside Rhode Island Hospital as nurses' union strike begins, by G. Wayne Miller of the Providence Journal. Providence. With last-minute negotiations having failed, unionized nurses and other healthcare workers at Lifespan's Rhode Island and Hasbro Children's Hospitals went on strike. The strike began at 3 p.m. with long picket lines extending along Eddy Street from the main entrance to Rhode Island Hospital and down both sides of Dudley Street. United Nurses and Allied Professionals Local 5098 strikers, family members, and outside supporters sang, chanted, blew whistles, clanged cowbells, and carried hundreds of signs, many handmade, including one that declared, "Lifespan needs to invest in their nurses," and another that read, "My X-ray can see that Lifespan has no heart." The start of the strike came after negotiators for both sides returned to the table at 8 a.m. Monday for talks that proved fruitless, just as they had last week during 2 other days of federal mediation. Members of UNAP Local 5098 voted July 12 to reject a contract proposal and on July 16 to authorize the 3-day strike that started Monday. This is a difficult day for all of us. Every member who walks the picket line understands what's at stake for themselves, their families, and their patients, said Frank Sims, a registered nurse and president of UNAP Local 5098. Lifespan is a broken system where wealthy executives make millions and frontline caregivers are ordered to do more with less, and until that changes, patient care will continue to be adversely impacted. According to the union, Lifespan management informed union members that they would be relieved at 1:30 p.m. Replacement workers hired by the Huffmaster Strike Services have been receiving training since last week and were in place to assume duties. Lifespan responded early Monday afternoon by expressing disappointment and reiterating its contention that its last offer was generous. We are extremely disappointed that UNAP leadership has decided to move forward with the strike, David Levesque, Director of Public Relations, Marketing and Communications, said in a statement. No one wins in a strike. The hospital has offered extremely competitive wage and benefits packages valued at tens of millions of dollars. During the Monday morning talks, Levesque said the union rejected a restructured proposal from the hospital that included generous wage increases ranging from 9 to 25% over 4 years. Instead, UNAP leadership submitted wage increases of up to 28% and added significant additional economic proposals that rendered their offer simply unrealistic. Levesque added, Lifespan is a $2.2 billion health care system, and last year showed an operating income of only $14.6 million, or a 0.7% operating margin. These dollars are used to reinvest in staffing and state-of-the-art medical equipment, among other necessities, to ensure that we are able to deliver the highest quality care to our patients. UNAP's latest wage proposals were not in line with market rates. Last Tuesday, Lifespan sent $10 million to Huffmaster Strike Services to provide replacement workers who are guaranteed 4 days of work. The union, which represents registered nurses, case managers, diagnostic imaging technicians, biomedical engineering staff, and respiratory therapists, was notified that members will be locked out for 4 days. Whatever happens in negotiations, said Ray Sullivan, a spokesman for the union, everyone goes back to work Friday at 3 p.m. Several Huffmaster security guards wearing black boots, green vests, and blue uniforms with Huffmaster Crisis Response badges watched strikers from several posts as the picket lines circled Monday on a hot, steamy summer afternoon. Sullivan estimated the size of the crowd at more than 1,000. The next story is from the opinion page, Padula. Natural Cannabis Caught Up in Dangers of Synthetics, by Greg Padula, a columnist. This modern era of fake news and crazed misinformation generated faster than our brains can process has left many disoriented and vulnerable to accepting rumor as fact. I see an urgency to engage with truth deniers in the area of cannabis, particularly the medical aspect. Prohibition has historically created more problems than the one it intended to squelch. Just look at cannabis prohibition. It has ruined lives, packed prisons with perfectly good people, and cost America billions. Misinformed citizens have become overwhelmed with rapid changes to the laws governing the plant, giving way to an even more radical breed of prohibitionists. With this, I feel the need to shed light on a danger directly related to cannabis prohibition, which has disappeared from arguments in favor of cannabis legalization. Prohibition's role in creating a legal market for a much more sinister menace, synthetic marijuana. Synthetic marijuana is a very misleading use of language. It refers to a class of substances more accurately called cannabinoid receptor agonists, or synthetic cannabinoids, or SCs. Marijuana itself is only a slang term, but we all know that it's referring to the actual plant which produces psychoactive effects through tetrahydrocannabinol, or THC. SCs, on the other hand, get their name from their effects on various cannabinoid receptors in the brain. Synthetic marijuana is in no way related to what people traditionally refer to as marijuana. It is important that this is understood. It's all just calculated wordplay. In 2012, the Synthetic Drug Abuse Prevention Act placed several classes of psychoactive substances, including many synthetic cannabinoids, into Schedule I of the Controlled Substances Act, the most restrictive classification. However, SCs are still found in shady smoke shops and gas stations around the United States. I saw it openly displayed recently at a gas station that now sells pipes and bongs. Spice, the first popular brand of SC, now serves as sort of a blanket term for all of them. Spice mostly appears as plant matter sprayed with liquid synthetic cannabinoids. It comes in shiny packaging with names closely mimicking actual cannabis strains. The plant materials are unknown. The chemicals being sprayed aren't disclosed, and it eludes any type of testing as it's basically being sold as potpourri. The biggest difference of all, unlike natural cannabis, synthetic cannabinoids are dangerous, even fatal. Common adverse reactions to SC are high blood pressure, rapid heart rate, vomiting, seizures, hallucinations, and even death. According to a study conducted by the Center for Disease Control, the CDC, 15 deaths were attributed to SC use in 2015, along with 7,369 calls made to the Poison Control Center. Though the number of poison control calls has reduced, according to their public data sheets, a rash of recent incidents point to another rise in SC's popularity. For example, back in April, we saw one of the worst large-scale poisoning of users to date. 3 people died and more than 100 others became violently ill after consuming a toxic batch of SCs circulating mostly in the Midwest. Symptoms included unexplained bruising, coughing up blood, bleeding from the nose and gums, blood and urine and feces, and excessively heavy menstruation. The ingredient responsible? Rat poison. So, with these frightening statistics, why would anyone use this toxic product? Study after study has shown the most common reason for the use of SCs is their invisibility in drug screenings. This makes them enticing to teenagers, parolees, prisoners, athletes, and sadly, members of the military. SCs have been particularly devastating to soldiers seeking relief from pain, PTSD, and other severe anxiety disorders. Botanical cannabis has been shown to be effective in achieving this, but soldiers fear the repercussions of testing positive for THC. Synthetic cannabinoids have further demonized natural plant-based cannabis because reports on SC rarely make it clear that it's not really cannabis. People hear about the deaths from SC, not understanding that the product consumed is more closely related to drain cleaner than THC. I've even received emails from people saying, "Cannabis is killing our children." According to the Drug Enforcement Administration, or DEA, there is no evidence to suggest cannabis has killed anyone. Synthetics, on the other hand, are dangerous. They are two different things. The birth of synthetic cannabinoids is just one of the many terrifying and heartbreaking byproducts of cannabis prohibition. Federally legalizing cannabis, or at least removing cannabis from the standard drug testing policies, could help make SCs unnecessary. The next story is titled, "Tennis Fundraiser Will Aid Former Tiverton Player in Need of Bone Marrow Transplant," by Marcia Pobzesnik of the Newport Daily News. Stephen Laguerre has loved the game of tennis since he was a young boy, and he may even play a bit on Saturday at a tennis tournament fundraiser that has been organized by friends and family who call themselves Team Stevie. Tiverton. The event at Dartmouth Indoor Tennis on Saturday from 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. is being held to help him and his family with expenses as he prepares for a bone marrow transplant early this fall. He had a liver transplant on May 24, just 2 weeks before his high school graduation. He attended the graduation ceremony on June 8 to the surprise and delight of many of his classmates at the Tiverton High School class of 2018. His recovery, he said days before graduation, was being termed a miracle because the oxygen machine he had relied on for months before his surgery was no longer needed after the operation. Laguerre said Monday he has spent most of his summer so far resting at home and working on getting stronger so he can be in good shape when he re-enters Children's Hospital in Boston in September or October for a bone marrow transplant. His hospital stay will be about 6 to 8 weeks, followed by some 9 months of recovery at home. They want me in the best shape possible, Laguerre said. The medical team has advised him to stay away from crowds, but the event Saturday will be an exception. I'm trying to get my strength back, he said of his daily physical therapy, 2-mile walks, and frequent trips to local ice cream shops. He has been out with friends a couple of times, once to play miniature golf and shoot some baskets at a local basketball court. He has eaten out a couple of times, but spends most of his days watching television and playing video games. Before he fell ill last year, he was one of the star tennis players on the high school team. The team won the state championship in late May, a day after Laguerre's liver transplant, and dedicated the win to him. One of the organizers of Saturday's tournament, Dina Eggy, said people are welcome to come to the event as spectators or players. We welcome players of all skills to compete for a great cause, Eggy said. Choose your match, pickleball or tennis, singles, doubles, at 20-minute intervals. The cost is $15 per person or $30 for a doubles team. Payment can be made at the door. Dartmouth Indoor Tennis is located at 757 State Road, North Dartmouth, Massachusetts. For more information and early registration are available by contacting Iggy at dinaegge@gmail.com. Food trucks from McRae's Seafood, Hawaiian Gyms, and Pete's Ice Cream will be at the event. Laguerre was born with an immune deficiency that led him to being diagnosed with hepatopulmonary syndrome last year. The condition caused pulmonary hypertension, requiring him to be on oxygen 24/7 until his liver transplant. Despite his amazing recovery, his journey is not over yet, Iggy said. Stevie is set to receive a bone marrow transplant this fall. The fundraiser will support his family's ability to continue to provide 24/7 care at home and cover medical expenses not covered by insurance. There have been several fundraisers over the past year or so. It helps out a lot, so it's awesome, Laguerre said of the support he and his family have received from so many friends, family, and community members. That concludes today's Herald News from Fall River. This is Irene at TIC, and I thank you for listening.
You've just heard news stories from the Fall River Herald. Please stay tuned for more programming.
Coming soon from the Talking Information Center, join reader Judith Casulo as she presents the book Saints for All Occasions by J. Courtney Sullivan. Nora and Teresa Flynn are 21 and 17 when they leave their small village in Ireland and journey to America. Nora is the responsible sister. She's shy and serious and engaged to a man she isn't sure that she loves. Teresa is gregarious. She's thrilled by their new life in Boston and besotted with the fashionable dresses and dance halls on Dudley Street. But when Teresa ends up pregnant, Nora is forced to come up with a plan, a decision with repercussions they are both far too young to understand. 50 years later, Nora is the matriarch of a big Catholic family with 4 grown children. John, a successful, if opportunistic, political consultant. Bridget, quietly preparing to have a baby with her girlfriend. Brian, at loose ends after a failed baseball career. And Patrick, Nora's favorite, the beautiful boy who gives her no end of heartache. Estranged from her sister, Teresa is a cloistered nun, living in an abbey in rural Vermont. Until after decades of silence, a sudden death forces Nora and Teresa to confront the choices they made so long ago. Saints for All Occasions by J. Courtney Sullivan will air for 18 episodes on the Pure Fiction Book Hour beginning August 9th and ending September 3rd.
Take a look under your bed. Find stuff under there? What about jobs? No? Now try your basement. There's a pair of overalls that overall you're not so into anymore. A perfectly good laptop that hasn't sat in your lap in months. And even more stuff, but still no jobs? Well, you really have both. See, stuff is defined as household articles considered as a group. Sometimes this stuff is no longer needed. Wait, no longer needed? That can't be right. Because remember those jobs you were looking for? Those are really needed, and they're the stuff inside your stuff. Even inside that winter coat that moved with you to Phoenix. Our job is to unlock those jobs, and it starts when you donate your stuff to your local Goodwill. Here's how we do it. When you donate to Goodwill, we sell your stuff to provide job training for people right here in your community. So just by teaming up with Goodwill, you help create jobs. And isn't that worth parting with the leftover keytar from your 80s cover band? Goodwill. Donate stuff, create jobs. Find your nearest donation center at goodwill.org. A message from Goodwill and the Ad Council.
Thank you for listening to the Massachusetts Reading Network, a window to independent life in your community from Cape Cod to the Berkshires.
This is volunteer reader Erica Slater, broadcasting from Worcester, Massachusetts. Stay tuned for more coming your way next.
WRRS Middleborough, Pittsfield, WVBF Middleborough, WDJM Framingham, WUML Lowell, WLLO Londonderry.
Coming up next from the Talking Information Center, news stories from the New Bedford Times.
Hello, this is Kathleen, and today, Tuesday, July 24th, I'll be reading to you from the Standard Times. Historic Church Being Preserved by Michael Bonner, New Bedford. A long line formed outside the First Baptist Church on William Street on Monday afternoon. It offered what many think is a glimpse into the future for the historic building. People walked up the steps and peered into the church that will soon partner with your theater as part of a WHALE, W-H-A-L-E preservation project. Monday marked the groundbreaking. We look forward to the day when this opens up and we can continue to brag about it and bring people in here to enjoy and feel proud about this city, Mayor John Mitchell said. City Hall is nearby, and Mitchell's parking spot faces the church. He said in the past he'd linger in the lot looking for Reverend Dalton, said to ask if he had any update opening the church up for purposes outside of religion. On his end, even to consider it took an extraordinary amount of openness, Mitchell said. Spoke along with Mitchell, WHALE Executive Director Terry Bernhardt and Your Theater President Susan Richard. Each also participated in the groundbreaking by stomping a shovel into the ground. Representative Antonio F.D. Cabral was also present. What we dreamed about, wished for so long is going to be a reality, said. So, for now, our desires and plans come to fruition starting now. When Bernhardt took over at WHALE, she said one of the first meetings she had with the mayor involved the preservation of First Baptist Church. That was his goal for WHALE, Bernhardt said. We've done other projects, but this definitely has been the board's, I must say, favorite, Bernard said. In 1829, the church was built on a 2-story wood frame that sits atop a stone foundation. It includes a steeple, which is currently under renovation. The church has historical significance with one of its members, Lieutenant Henry Martin Robert, achieving worldwide acclaim for creating Robert's Rules of Order, the standard for parliamentary procedures. What happened here, in ways that we could probably spend a lot more time talking about, really should be a part of the bigger New Bedford narrative, Mitchell said. It goes somewhat unheralded. This preservation should change that. We will do all that we can to ensure that it never falls into disarray again, Richards said. Council backs 17 Community Preservation Act requests by Michael Bonner, New Bedford. The City Council's Committee on Finance recommended the adoption of 17 items from the Community Preservation Act on Monday night. Not all of the $2,431,723 in funding came easy, though. Some debate even led to some chippy comments from some councilors to others. At one point, Ward 6 Councilor Joe Lopes and Chair of the Committee on Finance reminded Ward 5 Councilor Scott Lima that the body uses only positive or affirmative comments when referring to others. Lima responded, "What's wrong is wrong." The discussion led to only one alteration, though. The first item on the docket, the Acushnet Sawmill, New Bedford Expansion and Community Garden, was amended from $370,000 to $202,500. Councilor at Large Linda Murad and Lopes each questioned the value of the 1.6 acres which the funding would go to purchase. Each said it was an inaccurate estimate because it was estimated for its best use value, not as a parking lot, which the land would become. The closest vote of the night was a 6-4 tally regarding $48,000 towards the James Arnold Mansion. Councilors Naomi Carney, Dana Ribeiro, Maria Geista, and Murad voted against the measure. The item would provide a handicap ramp and doors and windows for the mansion. Councilors Carney disagreed with the funding and said the Wamsuta Club, as a private entity, could make the repairs. That prompted Lima to say Carney was incorrect, that the club is not the owner and in fact rents the space. The public needs to know that, Lima said. Abolition Row Park also drew some criticism, but passed. Murad agreed with the park, but voiced concerns about whether the city could maintain it. The council president said she wished the Historical Society would control the park rather than the Department of Parks, Recreation, and Beaches. The item still passed 8-2, with Geista joining Murad in the negative. The item was referred to Finance on May 24th and will reappear in front of the full City Council. New Bedford voters passed the CPA in 2014, and it is designed to help towns and cities grow and provide funds to achieve preservation. CPA allows municipalities to adopt a real estate tax surcharge of up to 3% to raise funds. The projects recommended for funding arrived to the council after 3 public meetings where the community members presented ideas. After that, ideas were reviewed through 2 public meetings. Community preservation projects. The CPA category of open space. Acushnet Sawmill, New Bedford Expansion and Community Garden, $202,500. Unrestricted fund, $73,659. CPA category Historic Preservation. The Schooner Ernestina Morrissey Rehabilitation, $100,000. Veterans Transitional Housing Expansion at 1060 Pleasant Street, $200,000. Siemens Bethel Continued Restoration, $176,396. First Baptist Community Theater, $275,500. Sergeant William H. Carney House Restoration, $53,800. Roch Jones Duff House restoration, $75,000. 305 to 307 Pleasant Street foreclosure restoration, $105,000. Strand Theater restoration as Cape Verdean Cultural Center, $50,000. Zeitarian Theater Marquee Project, $50,000. James Arnold Mansion restoration, $48,000. The CPA category, Recreation. Hazelwood Park Rehabilitation, $374,400. Abolition Row Park, $125,000. Buttonwood Diamond 1 Field Lighting, $244,000. Diaz Field Rehabilitation, $205,000. Brooklawn Basketball Court Upgrades, $121,127. Buttonwood Brook Trail and Bridges Project, $26,000. Total funding recommendations, $2,431,723. Freetown invites residents to sign up for alerts, by Daniel Schemer, contributing writer, Freetown. One of the worst criticisms elected officials can receive from the public is that they are not doing a good job communicating. In March, that's the message officials received at the special town meeting. The turnout was dreadfully low, and many of the residents who did show up argued on the floor that those who knew about the meeting only found out through the grapevine the day of. A public backlash ensued as the result of a controversial article vote put on the warrant, which was postponed because of a lack of public awareness. Residents cried foul and expressed this was a long-term systemic problem. A month later, a special election took place to vote on retail marijuana sales within town limits. Despite news coverage and official announcements by the town through standard channels, such as town bulletin boards, recorded government meetings, and postings on the town's website and social media accounts, only 414 people showed up to vote. To get the message out better, the town has a new automated notification system, which will be used for announcements concerning town meetings, elections, and emergency alerts related to weather, disasters, and power outages. The $3,300 One Call Now system was approved at the June 5th annual town meeting through public vote. But as David DeManch, town administrator, tells, the system was discussed by the Board of Selectmen much earlier in the year. We were talking about it prior to the March warrant. We thought it was a good way to communicate and get information out to the residents about issues that are important to the town. Similar to the Freetown Lakeville School District notification system, the One Call Now system is designed to distribute phone calls, text messages, and emails. The idea is to reach every household, not every resident. We don't want 5 people in one house getting the same message, said DeManch. The system allows for 1 phone number per household. With the notifications, only 1 call or text will be sent out to the submitted phone number. Residents have the option whether that message will be a phone call or text message. Submitted email messages will also receive separate notifications. This system made the most sense economically and with the purpose of reaching the most amount of people with a limited budget, DeManch said. It is also precisely for budgetary reasons that the town cannot employ a notification system through physical mail. We discussed that in terms of mailing. We put together some numbers, and physical mailers came out to be pretty expensive. The One Call Now system is far easier and cost-effective, said DeManch. The system is up and running too. Residents can sign up through a Google form at the town's website, freetownma.gov. The form is also linked with Freetown's official Facebook page, facebook.com/freetownma. So far, the system has been getting a good response. Over 100 signed up within the first 24 hours, said Ali Goltz, administrative assistant. Goltz and DeManch clarified that the One Call Now system is also accessible for those less digitally inclined. If interested, residents can visit the Selectman's office in Town Hall and fill out a printed form. Signing up over the phone is not an option due to, as they described by Goltz, the high volume of calls the town receives. For residents that are physically disabled, the Selectman's office will mail out a form upon request. We're strongly encouraging people to sign up, said DeManch. Scientists dip into Pope's Island waters for invasive species count, by Jeanette Barnes, New Bedford. Marine scientists from around New England stepped onto the docks at Pope's Island Marina on Monday to collect samples for a long-term survey of invasive species from Massachusetts to Maine. They spent an hour pulling up masses of life clinging to the docks and buoys. Our interest is in what's dominant, said James Carlton, Professor Emeritus at Williams College and Director Emeritus of the Williams Mystic Maritime Studies Program. On the underside of a buoy, he found invasive bryozoans, commonly called moss animals, along with bright orange sea squirts native to Asia's Pacific coast. Mingled in, he found a smaller number of native mussels and barnacles. The survey lasts 4 days, 3 for collecting and identifying organisms, plus another day for lab work. After Pope's Island, the researchers plan to visit Massachusetts Maritime Academy and Sandwich Marina on Monday, before driving to a laboratory at University of New Hampshire to work until nearly midnight. The survey began in 2000 and takes place about every 3 years. Niels Hobbs, a researcher at the University of Rhode Island, poured over a shallow tray filled with water and tiny marine life, including bug-like isopods, juvenile crabs, and skeleton shrimp, as slender as a filament. I'm very interested in the animals that aren't readily apparent, he said. Invasive species have come to New England clinging to ships or in ballast, or with shellfish imported for aquaculture. Adrian Papel, one of the survey coordinators for the Massachusetts Office of Coastal Zone Management, said marinas are a great place to take samples because the researchers do not need to wait for the tide to go out. Along with building knowledge about the spread of invasive species, the survey helps assess the potential effects of climate change as species move north, according to Katie Gronendijk, a spokeswoman for the Massachusetts Executive Office of Energy and Environmental Affairs. Kristen Osborne, an assistant professor at the Massachusetts Maritime Academy, said invasive species present tough competition for limited space in the marine environment. In her own preliminary research, invasive species were able to withstand higher concentrations of the copper in paints used on boat bottoms. So it's definitely a concern for communities like this, she said. Larry Harris, a professor at the University of New Hampshire, has been studying marine invertebrates for decades. When he first came to New England in 1969, many of the species found Monday at Pope's Island would not have been there, he said. The orange sea squirts were first found in this area around 1980. European shrimp were found in the region in 2010, and Asian shrimp within the last few years, the researchers said. The scientific team includes experts from Clarkson University, Framingham State University, Massachusetts Maritime Academy, MIT Sea Grant, the North Carolina Museum of Natural Science, the University of New Hampshire, the University of Rhode Island, the University of Sao Paulo, and Williams College. As for stopping the invaders, it is not easy, said Papal, of the Office of Coastal Zone Management. The focus is more on prevention. The invaders that are here, they're very good at what they do, so it's very hard to remove them, she said. CZM's website has photo identification cards for 23 invasive species. App Camp hopes to spark love of STEM, by Jacob May, Dartmouth. For the second summer in a row, UMass Dartmouth will host its Android mobile app development camp. drawing youngsters aged 10 to 14. The 5-day event, sponsored and hosted by the UMD College of Engineering and the University's Society of Women's Engineers, allows children interested in programming to take an introductory course designed to build critical thinking and problem-solving skills. Last year, 29 students participated in the inaugural edition, and 21 of the 35 spots are still available for the August 6th to 10th camp. Head teacher Christian Ellis, a software engineering student at UMD, said the goal of the camp is to allow students to dip their toes in the waters of STEM, science, technology, engineering, and math, and see if the field interests them. The camp's staff consists of UMD engineering students, including several members of the Society of Women's Engineers. Ellis said they hope to break some of the stereotypes surrounding the STEM and illustrate to the campers that anybody can be involved in programming. If you are a creative person, you could have a lot to offer, said Ellis. It's also part of a push to get more women involved in STEM. The camp is the brainchild of Dr. Ramprasad Balasubramanian, interim dean of the College of Engineering, as well as the Society of Women Engineers. This year's edition will again be co-ed, but Ellis estimates that staff and students involved are about 60% female. The first half of the camp builds a rapport among students and introduces them to the programs that they will use throughout the week. Students then must brainstorm and pitch an idea for an app to their teachers, which they spend the second half of the week completing. On Friday, students may present their completed apps to the rest of the camp and receive their certificate of completion, with a week culminating in a pizza party. Ellis said that last year, 2 of the students managed to publish their apps in the Android App Store. Obviously, I study software engineering now, but I wish I had done something like this, said Ellis. If I had known I liked the field, I could have begun working on projects in high school. The camp runs from 9 a.m. to 4 p.m. each day, and students can enroll with no prior programming experience for the price of $180. Students may apply for a partial or complete fee waiver. All paperwork, as well as additional information about the 5-day event, can be found on the UMD College of Engineering website, umassd.edu/engineering/appcamp. The goal of the camp is to get kids in the surrounding area to learn about software development, said Ellis. We want to give back to the community by letting kids explore STEM options without paying a ton of money. Veteran officer to be Boston's first black police commissioner, by Ilana Durkin-Risher from the Associated Press. Boston. A 33-year-old veteran of Boston's police force was named the city's first black police commissioner on Monday, ushering in a new era for a city that has long struggled with perceptions of racism. William Gross, who will replace Commissioner William Evans, pledged to continue working to strengthen relationships between police and their communities and combat what he called senseless youth violence. If you want change, be the change. That's why I became a police officer, Gross told reporters after Democratic Mayor Marty Walsh announced his promotion. Evans, who has served the city's top cop since 2014, is retiring after nearly 40 years on the force to become the police chief at Boston College. Gross, 56, has long been one of the public faces of the department and well known in the community. He became a patrol officer in 1985 and worked in the gang and drug control units before becoming night commander in 2012. He was named the department's first black superintendent-in-chief in 2014. He is the right person at the right time for this job, Walsh said. Boston hasn't seen the violent clashes between police and residents sparked in other cities by the shootings of black men. But activists have long complained that the city's police force is too white. The department faced heavy criticism earlier this year when it posted a Black History Month tweet celebrating the late former Boston Celtics coach Arnold "Red" Auerbach, who was white. Evans later apologized, calling the tweet insensitive. And the department came under fire that same month after a widely shared video showed a white officer stopping and questioning a black man who was on his way to the barbershop. Civil rights activists said the confrontation was indicative of the way law enforcement routinely view black men with suspicion. Tanisha Sullivan, president of the Boston branch of the NAACP, said any time a person of color ascends to a leadership position is a reason for hope. But she said it will only matter if Gross is giving a voice at the table with city leaders and is empowered to lead the department forward. It's really not a win unless and until we are able to see evidence to suggest that Chief Gross, now Commissioner Gross, has been able to activate the power of his diversity, and we'll know by the direction the department goes in. Evans, a native of South Boston, lost both his parents at a young age and was raised by his older brothers, one of whom served as the police commissioner before him. He started as a cadet in 1980 and rose through the ranks, eventually becoming superintendent, overseeing special events in the department's patrol division. He was a key player in the investigation into the marathon bombing that killed 3 spectators and injured more than 260 others. An avid runner, Evans finished the race before the bombs went off and then returned to help his colleagues in the manhunt for the Tsarnaev brothers. He was named interim commissioner in November 2013 after the resignation of Edward Davis and was appointed to the post permanently in 2014. Evans had tears in his eyes as he explained that it is time for him to slow down and spend more time with his family. He joked that he's looking forward to getting more rest, saying he sleeps with one eye open out of fear for a late-night call with bad news. I never dreamed of the day that I would be up here as a commissioner, Evans said. It has been a great ride. Unforgettable 100 by Buddy Thomas. Kristen Gonsalves from Apponequet, number 16. She was aware of her shortcomings in the sport she loved to play well before entering high school, and by the time her freshman year rolled around, Kristen Gonsalves was well on her way to becoming a well-rounded basketball player. Apponequet head coach Dan Rose was calling her a franchise player before Kristen stepped onto the court for her senior season. Nobody worked harder than 5'7" Pepperpot, who went from a good player as a freshman to the area's best player in both her junior and senior seasons. Kristen could always handle a basketball, and she handled it well enough to become the team's starting point guard as a freshman. Her shooting, however, was a little suspect, and over the next 2 years she devoted hours to perfecting a shooting touch. In her junior year, everything came together and sparked by her 15 points, 10 rebounds, and 4 assists. Kristen helped lead her team to an overall record of 24-1 and was named the 1998 Standard Times Player of the Year. A year later, she repeated the statistical effort by averaging 15.4 points, 10.1 rebounds, and 4.3 assists, and surpassed the magic 1,000 career point mark on her way to winning Player of the Year honors for a second straight year. Her final point total of 1,198 was second only to Stacy Connacht in the school's all-time scoring list. With Kristen in the lineup, Apponequet's 4-year record was 85-8, prompting Rose to say about his perennial all-star. A big reason why we've been so successful is because she's been a franchise player for us. She works as hard in practices as she does in games and puts forth the same effort on both the offensive and defensive ends of the court. In brief, fishermen can get CPR and first aid training, New Bedford. Fishing Partnership Support Services is bringing its CPR first aid training to New Bedford from 8 a.m. to noon Thursday, at the Massachusetts Fishing Partnership Office, 114 MacArthur Drive. The cost is $25 payable at the day of the event. However, if payment is a problem, contact Deb Kelsey, Fishing Partnership Navigator, to discuss scholarship opportunities. Fishing Partnership Support Services is incorporating 2 additional offerings for free: ergonomics and opioid awareness. The ergonomics training was designed specifically for commercial fishermen and will provide information on ways to reduce pain and injury through more efficient work practices. Opioid awareness training provides information on recognizing signs of opioid addiction, understanding how to recognize an overdose, and administering naloxone, Narcan, an opioid antagonist during an overdose. Registration for courses is required at www.fishingpartnership.org or call 978-282-4847 or email dkelsey@fishingpartnership.org. Thank you so much for listening, and I hope you have a wonderful day.
You've just heard news stories from the New Bedford Times. Please stay tuned for more programming. This announcement brought to you from PAC TV.
The Plymouth Public Library's Outreach and Senior Services Department provides services and collections of interest to older adults, such as large print fiction and nonfiction books, as well as audiobooks. Outreach also provides services to individuals who would otherwise not have access to library materials, such as people who are homebound, institutionalized, or who have a physical or mental disability. Outreach services include books by mail, deposit collections of regular and large print books, educational and recreational programs, recorded books, and reference assistance. Currently, 4 local nursing facilities partake in the deposit collection program, which brings the library to the residents by fulfilling specific requests, in addition to a variety of fiction and nonfiction titles each month. The large print collection include New York Times bestsellers, inspirational reads, local interest and nonfiction, mysteries, romance, and biographies. With a collection of over 2,000 audiobooks, patrons with limited sight or who are visually impaired can enjoy reading again. For more details and information on any of the library's outreach services, call Tom Kaminsky at 508-830-4250. Again, that's Tom Kaminsky at 508-830-4250.
Thank you for listening to the Massachusetts Reading Network, a window to independent life in your community from Cape Cod to the Berkshires.
Hi, this is volunteer reader Fred Tilley, broadcasting from Marshfield, Massachusetts. Stay tuned for more, coming your way next.
WRRS Middleborough, Pittsfield, WVBF Middleborough, WDJM Framingham, WUML Lowell, WLLO Londonderry.
Hi, this is Bob Branco, one of the co-hosts for In Perspective. You can still hear our programs on the TIC website. Just go to www.ticnetwork.org and hear any show that's available to you. Again, www.ticnetwork.org.
Coming up next from the Talking Information Center, news stories from the Cape Cod Times.
Thank you for tuning in to the Talking Information Center Network. I'm Laura Kerrigan, and today we're reading the Tuesday, July 24th issue of the Cape Cod Times. Our first local headline is Mission with a Message. B.J. Hill walks across the state, collecting concerns to bring to the new governor, by Kristen Young. Our dateline is Sandwich. With about 3 months to go until Massachusetts elects its next governor, B.J. Hill is on the home stretch of a 250-mile trek across the state, a journey he hopes will bring a variety of voices to the attention of its next top official. People can write anything they want to write, he said, taking a break from Monday's leg of the walk to flip through pages of a brown leather journal where more than 100 people he's met along the way have scrawled messages for the future governor. Myself, I'm not pushing a political agenda or a particular party, he said. If someone wants to write about gun rights, that's great. If someone wants to write about gun control, that's great too. Hill plans to put the journal directly into the hands of whomever wins the office in November. He said he hopes the messages will help the future governor remember the interests of residents from some of the state's smallest and most far-flung towns. People get busy, he said of elected officials. They start out with the best intentions, but little by little, it's what's most pressing on his desk at the moment, not necessarily what's most pressing for someone in Dennis, for example. The cross-state trek isn't Hill's first. The 41-year-old Holden resident who began his journey from Williamstown to Provincetown on July 4th walked similar routes in 2006 and 2014 prior to the elections of Governors Deval Patrick and Charlie Baker. Each granted Hill an audience after their respective inaugurations. He was pretty enthusiastic and open to reading the messages, said Hill of his meeting with Baker in 2015. He started to sit down and read page by page, message by message. If he did not have an appointment right after mine, he probably would have sat down and read it cover to cover, which is great. This is exactly why I'm doing this. Hill also walked from the Golden Gate Bridge in California to Boston's Copley Square in 2006, before former President Barack Obama was elected. And when Obama invited him to the White House in 2011, Hill walked again, hiking from Massachusetts to Washington and collecting more messages for the former president along the way. With fewer than 3 days remaining on Hill's 2018 journey, his journal is about half full. He plans to fill the remaining pages at the conclusion of his trip by reaching out to libraries and other community groups in towns that weren't directly on his route, giving residents there a chance to write in the journal. The comments he's heard over the past few weeks haven't rested on one specific issue, but immigration and health insurance have come up as reoccurring themes, said Hill. Either people are for helping people who come to the country seeking asylum, or people are for legal immigration, he said. It's interesting to get both of those sides of the story. As he paused for a few minutes near the side of Route 6A, Hill said he was glad to have arrived on the Cape, which he described as having its own unique charm. There were times during last week's heat wave when he wondered whether his journey was worth it, he said. You're out walking for 14, 15, 16 miles a day, he said. You've got 1,000 cars whizzing by you, and you're hot and you're sweaty. Sometimes it's like, man, why am I doing this? I feel like I'm yelling into a hole. But whenever he doubts his efforts, Hill thinks of the stories he's heard from the people he's met, including one from a woman who spent years fighting her disabled husband's health insurance company. The woman told Hill that her husband, an Air Force veteran and commercial fisherman, had gone into a coma as a result of an infection from a mosquito bite, and when he woke, he was left with a diminished mental capacity. His insurance company forced his move from a group treatment home into a less expensive secure care facility, which drastically reduced his quality of life, the woman told Hill. Because of poor conditions at the facility, she no longer brings her children to see their father, she said. The thought of getting that woman's message and others like it into the governor's hands is what motivates Hill to keep walking. Hill planned to spend Monday night in Yarmouth, walk to Orleans Tuesday, and finish his walk Wednesday by hiking to Provincetown and across the breakwater to Wood End Lighthouse with his girlfriend, who will be joining him for the final day of the trek. Until then, Hill hopes to keep filling the journal, which was made at a small business in Hubbardston, with more comments from Massachusetts residents. If anyone sees me walking, feel free to pull over at a safe spot and write down a note, he said. Our next local headline, murder trial scheduled for October. Attorney for Kelly Ridley Jr., age 19, plans to call expert on adolescent brains by Wheeler Copperthwaite. Our dateline for this story is Barnstable. Kelly Ridley Jr.'s murder trial has been scheduled to start October 24 in Barnstable Superior Court, which would be nearly a year after he allegedly fatally stabbed 26-year-old Thomas Russell Jr. at a party in Hyannis. Ridley, age 19, of Hyannis, stabbed Russell, a member of the Mashpee Wampanoag tribe, at the October 22nd party, according to prosecutors. He is charged with murder and 2 counts of assault and battery with a dangerous weapon. During a pre-trial hearing on Monday, Ridley's defense attorney, Christopher Belezos, said he intends to call an adolescent brain expert to testify during the trial. I haven't received any supporting documents, but he will be a general expert, and it shouldn't delay us, he said. Superior Court Judge Gary Nickerson asked if the unnamed expert will be giving his opinion about Ridley or offering his expert opinion as evidence. No, he will provide information the lay juror would want to have about adolescent decision-making in a situation like that, says Belezos. Nickerson asked a second time if the expert will be giving any opinions about Ridley. It will be how they are as a general group and what indicates as a group how they exhibit certain characteristics and their decision-making processes. Flanagan, an assistant district attorney with the Suffolk County District Attorney's Office, said he and his fellow prosecutors will be ready for the October 24 trial date, and that he will file a motion for discovery if Belezos' expert relies on any specific material to form his opinions. Flanagan, who worked for the Plymouth County District Attorney's Office when the case started, is prosecuting it because a relative of Russell works at the Cape and Islands District Attorney's Office. Both sides agreed to a September 7 status conference to flesh out any other issues related to the expert witness and to make any other arguments, so the issue can be fully litigated before trial, said Flanagan. During a January 4th arraignment, prosecutors alleged that Ridley sucker-punched Russell at a party and later in the evening ran into his back with a scooter before pulling a knife and stabbing him 4 to 5 times. Although Belezos did not go into detail on why he wants to call an adolescent brain expert, a September 2016 article in the American Academy of Child and Adolescent Psychiatry explains some of the science. Adolescents differ from adults in the way they behave, solve problems, and make decisions, says the article. There is a biological explanation for this difference. Adolescents' actions are guided more by the reactive and emotional part of the brain, the amygdala, than the reasoning portion, which is the frontal cortex. This results in adolescents being more likely to act on impulse, get into accidents or fights, and engage in risky or dangerous behavior. Conversely, they are less likely to think before acting, pausing to consider the consequences of actions or change dangerous or inappropriate behavior. These brain differences don't mean that young people can't make good decisions or tell the difference between right and wrong, says the article. It also doesn't mean that they shouldn't be held responsible for their actions. Our next headline, Court clears way for Provincetown to buy Harbor Hill property. With housing in short supply, decision called a great moment for the Cape, by Ethan Genter. Our dateline is Provincetown. A land court judge has authorized the sale of the Harbor Hill property to Provincetown, ending a lengthy court process over the property's timeshare titles and clearing the way for the town to buy the 26-unit building for community housing. The town looks forward to acquiring and renovating the Harbor Hill property, adding 2 accessible units, and delivering the first 28 apartments in pursuit of its mission, with an expectation that the first units will be made available for rent via lottery in late 2018, according to a statement from the town. The town has been working to buy the property since November 2016, when the state legislature approved the creation of the Provincetown Year-Round Rental Housing Trust. The town won the property with an $8.1 million bid at a bankruptcy auction in February 2018. The case may be one of a kind because timeshares are rarely terminated, and it's even more rare for them to go through the bankruptcy process, said Warren Agin, the Harbor Hill bankruptcy trustee. As far as I know, this is the first one terminated by bankruptcy in Massachusetts, he said. The land was also registered, which means any moves also needed approval in land court, adding time to the process. The 1,000-plus deeds will be recorded in the Barnstable Registry of Deeds before the town goes back to bankruptcy court for the approval of the final sale. The timeshare off Bradford Street in the West End has been closed since August 2016. The town is soliciting bids for work on the building and the 1.2-acre property for work on the building and the 1.2-acre property, and is taking submissions for property management companies. It's mostly doors, windows, some roof, other side repairs, and some septic, said town manager David Panagore of the work that needs to be done at the property. Again filed motions on Monday to complete the sale. Any objections to the sale are due back to the court by August 13th, and there's a hearing on the sale tentatively scheduled for August 14th, with the hope of completing the sale by the end of the month. The town has a housing crunch, and the property will help people who make between approximately $55,000 and $100,000 find a place to live in Provincetown, said Panagore. Town officials have seen great interest from people hoping to get a unit, said Select Board Member Thomas Dunnigan, who called the order a great moment for the Cape. The Housing Trust will continue to research other opportunities in town to achieve the goal of a sustainable market-rate rental stock in Provincetown, according to the town statement. While it's a good step forward, the town still has a long way to go, said Dunnigan. We believe it will make a significant impact, he said. The housing crunch is so severe, it will be a start, but it's not the solution. Our next headline is Hyannis Hotel closed for operating without permit. The International Inn has a history of problems, but the new owner says he plans to reopen soon. By Ethan Genter. Our dateline is Hyannis. The outlook for the International Inn is anything but bubbly after it was closed last week by the Barnstable Board of Health for operating without a permit. Health and fire inspections also turned up more than 100 violations, according to town officials. The closure of the 141-room hotel on the west end of Main Street occurred on July 17th, said Thomas McKean, the town's health director. Mark Patel bought the motel earlier this year, but never obtained a new motel permit, said McKean. Permits are renewed annually and can't be transferred to a new owner. An inspection earlier this month by the Hyannis Fire Department found 140 fire code violations. Several problems were also found by the health inspector. Mattresses are stained and torn, as are the ceiling tiles, which are bulging downward. The ice machine in the common area is dirty, air conditioners had dirty filters, and the wallpaper is bubbling and coming away from the wall, according to the health inspection report. There is minimal housekeeping done in the rooms, as evidenced by the many piles of dust, dirt, cobwebs, and other foreign debris, wrote Donna Miorandi, the health inspector. There were even chocolate chip cookies and bottle caps under one bed. The fire inspection was done only in random rooms, as guests were staying in the hotel, and before reopening, the fire department would need to go through every room, said McKean. The hotel also had been serving a continental breakfast without a food permit or common victualler license. The bar of the hotel was already shuttered because the hotel does not have an alcohol license, and both the indoor and outdoor pool has been closed. This hotel has quite a history of complaints that has been chronic for months and even longer, wrote Miorandi. At present, I am there weekly, if not more, on complaints from many hotel guests. The town received a motel permit application from Patel on June 26, but after hearing the inspection reports, they denied the application and ordered Patel to cease and desist operating the facility, which is known as the Cuddle and Bubble for its jacuzzi tubs inside the rooms. The hotel has had problems previously, including a fire in February caused by a bedside candle and cracks in the hotel ceiling and support beams that were caused by a significant amount of water on the roof. Patel said he hopes to reopen the hotel soon. I'm the new owner and I didn't know these things, he said. He plans to fix the problems and get up and running again within a couple of weeks. I will do it, said Patel. Our next headline, December trial date set in Hyannis slang. Kevin Seamy of Brockton is one of two men accused of killing David Anthony Colon in June 2015 by Wheeler Copperthwaite, and our dateline is Barnstable. One of the two men accused of fatally shooting a Hyannis man in the head during an alleged 2015 drug deal is scheduled to go to trial on December 10th. Kevin Seamy, age 22 of Brockton, appeared Monday morning in Barnstable Superior Court for a pre-trial hearing. His attorney, Edward Fogarty, said he could not fully commit to the December trial date. "We'll get you the date, and it will make both of you get to work," Superior Court Judge Gary Nickerson said. Seamy was previously indicted on charges of murder and carrying a firearm without a license, while the other person arrested, Kyle Walker, age 27 of South Yarmouth, was indicted on a charge of murder. The two men are accused of killing David Anthony Colon, age 19, on Washington Avenue Extension in Hyannis on June 2015. Seamy will go on trial before Walker, said Cape and Islands Assistant District Attorney Sharon Thibault. Fogarty argued that a charge of carrying a firearm without a license should be dismissed because there is not enough evidence that his client possessed the gun to support a grand jury indictment on that charge. Fogarty told Nickerson the grand jury heard that the gun was found in a driveway away from the alleged shooting at the Washington Avenue Extension in Hyannis. There were the fingerprints of the defendant on it, said Fogarty. In the grand jury testimony, the gun was never explicitly associated with the shooting, he said. At some point in time, he touched it, said Fogarty. That's not to say he possessed it. That doesn't put him in possession in any way, shape, or form. Nickerson denied the motion, saying that grand jurors are allowed to make inferences from the evidence presented. Turning next to the police log, our first article is tow truck driver charged with OUI after Hyannis arrest. Driver was picking up vehicle of woman who was also charged with OUI by Tanner Stenning. Our dateline is Hyannis. The driver of a tow truck sent to pick up the vehicle of a woman who was arrested Saturday night and charged with drunken driving was also charged with drunken driving, according to state police. A state police trooper stopped Patricia O'Donnell, age 51 of Marston Mills, on Route 28 and arrested her for operating under the influence of liquor, according to a statement from police. Police requested Capeway Towing to tow her vehicle. The company dispatched 25-year-old Brandon Fenton of Hyannis, who was then also arrested for operating under the influence of liquor, the statement says. Police said a reporter with a local website, Hyannis News, witnessed the tow truck swerve over the solid white lines and off to the side of the road while traveling on Willow Street and Yarmouth Road, nearly striking a pole, says the statement. Robert Bastille, who owns and operates Hyannis News, recorded the truck on his dash cam and uploaded it to YouTube, according to the statement and Bastille's own posting about the arrest. Fenton had bloodshot, glassy eyes, smelled of alcohol, and told police he had 5 or 6 beers, according to the police report. He was booked on the OUI as well as charges of negligent operation and marked lines violation, said the statement. Fenton and O'Donnell pleaded not guilty Monday in Barnstable District Court. Fenton is scheduled to appear in court August 24th for a pretrial hearing, and O'Donnell is scheduled to return to court August 10th for a pretrial hearing. In a statement on its Facebook page, Capeway Towing thanked Hyannis News and said that Fenton was immediately fired. Capeway Towing has zero tolerance for any driver under the influence of drugs or alcohol, whether on duty or on call, said the statement. Next, we have man convicted of firearms drug charges. This was written by Tanner Stenning, and our dateline is Boston. A 36-year-old Harwich man was convicted Monday in U.S. District Court of firearms and drug offenses, according to a statement from U.S. Attorney Andrew E. Lelling's office. Timothy Fletcher was convicted by a federal jury of 1 count each of possession of cocaine base with intent to distribute, possession of cocaine with intent to distribute, and being a felon in possession of a firearm and ammunition. He was found to be in possession of a .45 caliber semi-automatic pistol, 58 rounds of .45 caliber ammunition, and 60 rounds of 9mm ammunition, said the statement. Fletcher was first arrested and charged in December of 2015 and has been in custody since. On April 3, 2015, police executed a search warrant at a storage unit in Hyannis, recovering a cache of ammunition, firearms, crack cocaine, powder cocaine, $1,420 in cash, drug paraphernalia, 2 digital scales, boxes of plastic sandwich baggies, some 223 pairs of sneakers, and various documents containing Fletcher's name, said the statement. The night before the warrant was executed, Fletcher was stopped by police and found to be in possession of the key to the storage unit. Many of the items, including firearms, firearm magazines, drugs, and cash, were hidden inside the sneakers and sneaker boxes. Police recovered Fletcher's fingerprints from a magazine found inside a sneaker box with the .45 caliber semi-automatic pistol, said the statement. A sentencing hearing is scheduled for October 23rd. Next, man charged with 5th OUI after arrest by Tanner Stenning. Our dateline is Provincetown. A Connecticut man pleaded not guilty Monday in Orleans District Court to his 5th OUI charge, according to court documents. Ronald Humphrey, age 47, was charged with operating while under the influence of liquor, 5th offense, negligent operation of a motor vehicle, and improper operation of a motor vehicle, according to court documents. He was released after posting $500 bail and must remain alcohol-free and not operate a motor vehicle. On Sunday, a Provincetown police officer on foot patrol saw a vehicle with Connecticut registration being driven the wrong way into Lopez Square on Commercial Street, according to the police report. The vehicle continued the wrong way into the intersection before the officer signaled the driver to stop, said the report. The driver identified himself as Humphrey. A police cruiser was requested, and Humphrey took a field sobriety test. After the test, he was placed under arrest, according to the report. A review of Humphrey's criminal history showed 4 prior OUI arrests. Humphrey is scheduled to return to court August 22nd for a pre-trial hearing. Next, we have Nantucket man faces upskirt charge by Tanner Stenning. Our dateline is Nantucket. A 30-year-old Nantucket man was arrested for allegedly taking an upskirt photo of a woman on Federal Street on Thursday, according to a statement by state police. 3 women approached a state police trooper claiming they had witnessed the man taking the photo, providing video and photos of the suspect, said the statement. The images were shared with Nantucket police in an attempt to locate the man. The same trooper later that evening saw the suspect waiting tables at a local restaurant. After an investigation, police arrested him. The man, who police did not identify, is being charged with committing illegal electronic surveillance or video of a nude or partially nude person, said the statement. Police continued their investigation on Monday, and the suspect was taken to the hospital for evaluation after making statements suggesting he posed a threat to his own safety, said the statement. Next, we have woman charged after crashing her SUV. This was written by Cynthia McCormick, and our dateline is Barnstable. A 41-year-old Mashpee woman pleaded not guilty Monday in Barnstable District Court to her 3rd OUI charge after she allegedly crashed her Chevrolet Tahoe into a tree Sunday in Sandwich with 2 small children inside the vehicle. Nicole Rogers was also charged with 2 counts of child endangerment while operating under the influence, operating a motor vehicle with a suspended license, and a marked lanes violation, according to court documents. Rogers hit a tree at Quaker Meeting House Road and Braddock Circle at 7:46 p.m., according to a police report. She told police she had lost control when turning around to head home and said she was not injured and had no passengers, according to the report. 2 witnesses directed the officer's attention to a 7-year-old child and a 6-year-old child standing by Braddock Circle. Police said the children were unsecured in the vehicle and flew from their seats during the crash, according to court records. 1 child reported a leg injury. A grandmother arrived, and both children were taken by ambulance to Cape Cod Hospital, said police. Rogers was arrested after failing field sobriety tests. Police filed a 51A report and contacted the Massachusetts Department of Children and Families, according to court documents. Rogers is scheduled to return to court August 22nd for a pre-trial hearing. Next, Dennis resident charged with rape by Cynthia McCormick. Dateline is Barnstable. A 25-year-old Dennis man pleaded not guilty Monday in Barnstable District Court to charges of rape and strangulation or suffocation. Michael Calderaro, who was arrested by Yarmouth police, was also charged with indecent assault and battery on a person over 14, according to court documents. He made $1,000 bail with conditions on his release, including that he wear a GPS device and stay away from the victim, say documents. Calderaro was scheduled to return to court August 20 for a pre-trial hearing. Details of the allegations against Calderaro were sealed because of the nature of the alleged crimes. Man seriously injured in jet ski crash by Colleen Cronin. Our dateline for this story, East Dennis. A Connecticut man was seriously injured after being thrown from a jet ski near the entrance to Sesuit Harbor on Monday. At 2:22 p.m., fire officials responded to a call of an accident involving a 58-year-old Stonington, Connecticut man and his daughter, according to a statement from Dennis Deputy Fire Chief Robert Brown. Both the father and daughter were on the jet ski when he lost control of the machine and it flipped. There was no collision, says the statement. The man swallowed water on impact. The Dennis harbor master responded and brought the man and his daughter to the dock, where he was treated before being brought to Cape Cod Hospital with injuries that were life-threatening, according to the statement. His daughter was not injured. Driver to be cited in fiery Harwich crash by Kristen Young. Our dateline for this report, Harwich Port. A Boxford woman will be cited for a right-of-way violation after a two-vehicle crash Saturday that resulted in a car being destroyed in a fire and a sports utility vehicle going off the road and into a marsh, according to Harwich Police. Esther Martin, age 83, was driving a 2013 Ford Expedition north on Cadee Road when she tried to make a left turn onto Route 28 and pulled directly into the path of a 2010 Subaru Impreza driven by 19-year-old Travis Van Vleck of Chatham, according to a statement from the Harwich Police Department. The force of the impact caused the gas tank on the Subaru to rupture, and Van Vleck saw the flames and got out of the car before it became engulfed. Others at the scene assisted Martin out of the Expedition, which came to a stop in the marsh off the roadway, according to the statement. When Harwich Police and the Harwich and Dennis Fire Departments responded to the scene at about 3:55 p.m., the Subaru was completely consumed by flames. Martin and Van Vleck were taken to Cape Cod Hospital with injuries that were not considered life-threatening, said the statement. Well, that wraps up today's edition of the Cape Cod Times. I'm Laura Kerrigan, your volunteer reader. Thank you for listening to the Talking Information Center Network.
Thank you for listening to the Massachusetts Reading Network, a window to independent life in your community from Cape Cod to the Berkshires.
This is volunteer reader Joanne Shea, broadcasting from Lowell, Massachusetts. Stay tuned for more coming your way next.
WRRS Middleborough, Pittsfield, WVBF Middleborough, WDJM Framingham, WUML Lowell, WLLO Londonderry.
Please join us for a reading from Consumer Reports magazine. It's coming up now from the Talking Information Center.
Consumer Reports on Health, July 2018. Finally, calories on menus. Chain eateries now have to supply this info. In 2010, the government passed a law requiring that certain kinds of food establishments, notably restaurant chains, disclose the calories of standard menu items. But various issues, including pushback from some industry groups, delayed the implementation of the rule time and time again. That has changed as of May 7th. The federal menu labeling rule is up and running. You can find calorie counts in food-selling businesses with 20 or more locations, including fast food and casual dining chains, convenience stores, movie theaters, takeout, and delivery chains, bakeries and salad bars, and hot food bars in supermarkets. This also includes alcoholic drinks listed on menus. And operators of 20 or more vending machines must post calories in most instances as well. Why is this rule important? Consumers are getting an increasing portion of their calories from eating out, says William Wallace, a senior policy analyst for Consumers Union, the advocacy division of Consumer Reports. It's terrific for consumers because it empowers them and makes it far easier to make healthy food choices when eating out. The top 50 U.S. chains were already supplying calorie counts in stores or online, but consumers weren't able to get this information up front from all outlets. Consumers Union, along with other public interest groups, has been working for years to help get the rule implemented, supporting its passage and lobbying Congress to prevent it from being weakened. For advice on making healthy choices when dining out, go to cr.org/eating out. Health Wire. Quick tips for living well. Stop cruise ship tummy woes. Taking a cruise, wash your hands often and encourage others to do the same. To avoid norovirus, an infection that causes vomiting and diarrhea, says Arizona State University scientists. Researchers compared several strategies, including shipboard cleaning, isolating ill passengers and crew, and hand washing, and found that hand washing was the clear winner. It has the potential to stop the spread of norovirus. Hearing loss hazards. There's a good reason to get a hearing check if you have concerns. In a study by the University of California, Irvine, and Harvard Medical School, people with a lot of trouble hearing had nearly twice the odds of an accident that resulted in injury, like falling or a car crash, compared with those with normal hearing. Even minor problems increase the odds of driving and leisure time accidents with injuries. Vital step for drug-resistant infections. For some drug-resistant infections, consulting an infectious disease specialist could be life-saving. In a recent study, those evaluated by these doctors were up to 59% less likely to die within 30 days, compared with others depending on the infection type. Good news about older brains. Healthy older adults appear to produce as many new brain cells as younger adults do, according to a Columbia University study. When researchers examined 28 people, 14 to 79 years of age, they found that the production of new brain cells was steady across the ages. The best veggies or your heart. In a recent Australian study of 954 older women, those who ate 3 or more vegetable servings per day fared better based on a stroke risk factor known as carotid artery intima media thickness than those who had 2 servings per day or fewer. The women in the study filled out food questionnaires and had scans that measured the thickness of their neck arteries. All veggies are healthy, but this study suggests the cruciferous ones such as broccoli, Brussels sprouts, cabbage, and cauliflower seem to be the most beneficial. Why? Sulforaphane, a compound in them, may inhibit inflammation. Ankle fracture? Read this before surgery. Surgery is often performed for ankle fractures that make the ankle joint unstable, but the risk of infection and poor healing afterward may be higher for older adults. And a recent study in the United Kingdom found that function and pain were nearly equal in seniors who had surgery and those who got a tight-fitting cast to immobilize the joint. Carb concerns? Try these food tips. Carbohydrates, starches, sugars, and fiber are the nutrients that have the biggest impact on blood glucose levels. But people with diabetes or at risk for it don't have to shun them, nor do you have to obsessively track the grams of carbohydrates in your diet, which some experts recommend for people with diabetes, especially if they use insulin. It can be overwhelming, especially for older patients, says David Lamb, MD, of the Mount Sinai Clinical Diabetes Institute. In addition, certain carbs are rich in fiber, which helps your body better metabolize blood glucose, says Tufts University Dariush Malzafarian, MD, Dr. PH. Minimize your intake of refined carbs, such as white bread and white rice, and added sugars. But note that the high-carb foods below can be part of a healthy diet for people with diabetes. Sweet vegetables. Beets, carrots, sweet potatoes, and winter squashes are higher in sugars than green vegetables, but are still considered relatively low-carb foods. Potatoes. A few servings a week might be okay, but frequent consumption could raise type 2 diabetes risk. Mashed or boiled are far less likely to do so than French fries. Fruit. It's rich in nutrients and fiber, and studies show no link to type 2 diabetes. Stick to fresh or frozen fruit or canned fruit and water. Juice can raise blood glucose levels. Whole grains. Many studies show a strong link between whole grains, such as buckwheat, bulgur, oatmeal, and quinoa, and a lower type 2 diabetes risk. The majority of the grains you eat should be in whole form. Do you really need meds for dry eyes? What to make of all those ads for prescription drugs and how to find relief now? If your eyes are often dry, scratchy, or sore, or your vision is sometimes blurry, you might have what's called dry eye. But the prescription drugs that are widely advertised for this collection of symptoms, which affect up to 30% of people age 50 and older, shouldn't be your first choice, says Marvin M. Littman, MD, Consumer Reports Chief Medical Advisor. Here's what to try first and when to consider more aggressive treatment. The causes. Dry eye is usually the result of poor quality tears, which evaporate too quickly, leaving the eye uncomfortably dry. The chance of this increases with age, in part because the body's tear-producing glands begin to function less efficiently. Less commonly, people simply don't produce enough tears, sometimes because of a separate medical condition. Other causes may include medication, side effects, LASIK surgery after effects, eyelid inflammation, and more. Often, there's more than one reason. Some soothing treatments. Start with simple strategies. I would encourage everyone to first try some things that are easily done at home, says Anat Gaylor, MD, Associate Professor of Clinical Ophthalmology at the University of Miami Miller School of Medicine. What to try? Artificial tears. These over-the-counter, OTC, eye drops are meant to supplement your own tears. A variety of formulations are available, and you may need to try a few to find one that's helpful. MB patient, says Leela Raju, MD, Clinical Associate Professor of Ophthalmology at NYU Langone Health in New York City. It can take several weeks for artificial tears to have a significant effect. They're safe to keep using for as long as you need them. If you reach for the tears 5 or more times a day, opt for preservative-free formulas. The others may irritate eyes further. Avoid redness-reducing drops for similar reasons. Some people find relief with thicker artificial tear ointments. These are best used at bedtime because they can cause blurry vision. Eyelid hygiene. Cleaning your eyelids regularly can help combat the effects of common contributing issues, such as eyelid inflammation, blepharitis. Once a day, hold a warm washcloth over your eyes for a few minutes. Then gently massage the eyelids, especially along the eyelashes. Adjust your environment. Dry air can speed tear evaporation, so consider a humidifier. Keep fans and air conditioning from blowing on your face and avoid cigarette smoke. Fix your screen habits. Blinking helps keep the eyes lubricated, and we blink less when staring at computer or phone screens. Raju recommends this. Every 20 minutes, focus on an object that's 20 feet away from you for 20 seconds. When you need more help. If the strategies above don't help after several weeks or months, an ophthalmologist can help determine whether a medical condition is causing your discomfort and direct you to treatment for that. For more severe dry eye, your doctor may recommend prescription drugs, 2 RX eye drops, Restasis and Exildra are marketed for dry eye and appear to help some people. Restasis is approved only to increase tear production, and clinical trials didn't provide strong evidence that it actually improved dry eye symptoms, according to a recent editorial in JAMA Internal Medicine, and it carries a chance of side effects, including a burning sensation in the eyes. In studies, Xydra reduced the discomfort of dry eyes after 12 weeks of use, but it can cause eye irritation and an altered sense of taste. These drugs should only be altered when less risky treatment has failed, Lippman says. Surgery. In-office procedures can temporarily or permanently block tear ducts, so tears remain on the eye's surface longer. Outpatient surgery can correct eyelid defects or, on normal eyelids, reduce the exposed surface of the eye and curb tear evaporation. But most people with dry eye won't need surgery, and all these procedures do have risks. Discuss the pros and cons with your doctor. When a physical is not really a physical. Medicare fully covers what's called the, quote, annual wellness visit. But this is not a typical checkup, says Jack MD, immediate past president of the American College of Physicians. Both Medicare and private insurance will usually cover recommended screenings, standard vaccinations, and blood work that checks cholesterol and other lipids. But none of these are included as part of this Medicare benefit. A doctor will check your height, weight, and blood pressure during the Medicare wellness visit, but it's more of a conversation than a physical exam. The main purpose is to talk about your health and wellness goals and to work together to develop a preventative plan to help keep you healthy in the year ahead. Any tests or procedures beyond your vitals, even any hands-on examination, will not be covered as part of the wellness visit. Something specific bothering you? Know that if you bring it up during this visit and your doctor investigates, you might be stuck with the bill. That's why if you have a health problem, it's better to just go straight to scheduling an appointment with your doctor, ND says. Get fit. The best pool works. Water exercise is a smart fitness choice at any age. Spending time in a pool won't just keep you cool, it can help you get healthier too. Like land-based exercise, water workouts improve blood pressure and cognition, burn calories, and strengthen your muscles and cardiovascular system. And because water is denser than air, it provides more resistance. That allows people to challenge their muscles while putting less pressure on joints, making it possible to comfortably do exercises they may not be able to do on land. Aquatic sessions can safely challenge people with physical limitations, says Austin Way, a certified personal trainer and the fitness director at the Cal Avi Health Spa in Vista, California, which offers more than a dozen pool-based classes. Water lessens the effect of gravity, allowing movement through a wider range of motion. Get your feet wet. According to a 2016 review of studies by the British Geriatrics Society, 2 water workouts per week significantly boost the physical functioning of healthy people over the age of 50. We found clear improvements in muscular endurance and aerobic power compared with no exercise, says Daniel Daly, Ph.D., one of the review's authors and a professor of kinesiology and rehabilitation sciences at KU Leuven University in Belgium. Agility and flexibility also improved. Other research has found that water workouts are especially helpful in reducing pain and disability in people with osteoarthritis, particularly those who have knee or hip problems. Pain in these areas is often exacerbated during activities performed in a weight-bearing position, says Carol A. Otis, PT, Ph.D., a professor in the Department of Physical Therapy at Arcadia University in Glenside, PA, and a member of the Association of Rheumatology Health Professionals. When you walk in the water or do other exercises, its buoyancy eases the load on your hips and knees, she explains. This minimizes any pain or discomfort you might experience from the activity. The fun factor. The best kind of exercise is the type you'll actually do. And research shows that people like aquatic workouts more than those on land. That may be because aquatic exercise feels easier, so you can work more comfortably at a higher intensity. By yourself, you can do resistance band exercises in chest-high water. Walk briskly in a pool's shallow end, or wear a flotation belt to run in deep water. To work out with others, which may make exercise more enjoyable, try an aquatic group fitness class. Whatever water routine you choose, do it at a moderate intensity, at least twice a week, to reap the rewards. 5 classes to make a splash in. Why not dip a toe in one of these group fitness classes? Many are available at local YMCAs, community pools, and health clubs. I Chi. This form of Tai Chi combines deep breathing and a series of slow-paced movements done in shoulder-deep water. It may improve movement and balance. Aqua cycling. During this class, participants ride stationary bikes in the shallow end of a pool. The resistance comes from the water, says Austin Way, fitness director at the Cal Avi Health Spa in Vista, California. The intensity is determined by how fast you pedal. Aqua Pilates. This class includes strengtheners, such as leg circles and side bends, done in the shallow end of the pool or while lying on a floating board. That's anchored so you don't drift away. The instability enhances recruitment of the deep stabilizing muscles of the pelvis and spine, Wei explains. Aqua Yoga. You'll do a series of standing yoga poses in a pool during this class. The water allows your body to bend in different ways than it can on land. Aqua Zumba. This is a pool party. Wei says an instructor teaches you easy-to-follow dance combinations that you repeat to the beat of music to boost your heart rate. On your mind, question of the month. I don't like wearing sunscreen. Can clothing plus a hat provide enough protection? Long pants and long sleeve shirts can help, but you should still apply sunscreen to exposed areas. And even with a broad-brimmed hat, put sunscreen on your face, ears, neck, and chest. They are extra vulnerable, and sunlight can reflect off the ground to these areas. Tightly woven, dark-colored fabrics are better at blocking the sun's rays. Clothes with a UPF ultraviolet protection factor rating also work well and tend to be lightweight and work even if they get wet. Jessica Krant, MD, a dermatologist and member of CR's Medical Advisory Board, says to look for a UPF of at least 50. Bugs on a plane? How can I avoid catching germs when flying? Most illnesses contracted on a plane are picked up from surfaces, not through the air, says Mark Gendro, MD, a researcher who studies infection risk during air travel. Use hand sanitizer, one with at least 60% alcohol, before and after touching seat back trays and seat buckles, where the bugs are plentiful. If you sit near a passenger who's coughing or sneezing, adjust the air vent above your seat so the air flows away from your face. And stay hydrated. Dry cabin air can dehydrate protective membranes in your nose and mouth, leaving you more susceptible to infection. Salt versus sodium. What's the difference between salt and sodium? Sodium itself is what makes your blood pressure go up. Salt is sodium chloride, about half sodium and half chlorine. It's a major source of sodium in the diet, but not the only one. Sodium is also found in products such as baking soda and various preservatives and thickening agents in the form of sodium phosphate and other compounds. That's one reason you should limit the consumption of processed and packaged foods. They tend to be high, not just in salt, but also in other sodium-containing compounds. In fact, processed and packaged foods, not table salt, the seasoning you cook with and sprinkle on your food, are the main sources of sodium in the American diet. So to limit sodium, eat whole foods as much as possible. And when buying packaged foods, look for those that provide 5% or less of your daily sodium value, says Arlene Delson, a registered dietitian at the Johns Hopkins School of Medicine. Note that food labels list the amount of sodium in a product from all sources, not just salt. Sandal season. How can I make my cracked yellow toenails look better? Keeping them well trimmed and applying cuticle oil to the band of skin at the base of nails will help, says Tracy Valicki, DPM, a podiatrist at Temple University School of Podiatric Medicine. Ask your foot doctor about special nail polish that won't trap moisture and promote fungus growth, which can turn your nails yellow, as regular nail polish and acrylic nails can. A podiatrist can also rebuild nails damaged by fungus. Keep your health info private. In these highly digital days, your data can be shared in many ways that can really cost you. Let's say you've got what feels like heartburn. You Google heartburn symptoms and remedies and seek advice from friends on Facebook. Your symptoms worsen after lunch, so you make an appointment for a doctor's visit using your physician's patient portal. After your appointment, your doctor sends a prescription electronically to your regular pharmacy and hands you a printout with helpful recommendations. Problem solved? Yes, but now there may be a new one. Any of those seemingly innocuous transactions could have violated the privacy of your health information, and such violations are common. A January 2018 survey from the University of Phoenix found that 1 in 5 registered nurses have experienced a breach of patient data at his or her facility. What can happen if your medical data is shared inappropriately? Your digital searches might be used by companies to sell products to you. If your health records are stolen, it might even lead to medical identity theft, where your information is used to fraudulently obtain medical or government services or medical equipment, or to falsify insurance claims.
You were just listening to the Talking Information Center's presentation of Consumer Reports Magazine. We hope you found the information useful. Please stay tuned for more programs forthcoming.
Hey, Russell Wilson here, and I know how important exercise is.
It's essential. It's essential.
With Play 60, United Way and the NFL are helping kids stay active and play at least 60 minutes a day.
Healthy kids. Healthy kids.
But what this place needs is you. To donate or volunteer, go to unitedway.org/play60, because great things happen when we live united.
Donate.
Are you guys going to do that every time?
Yes, of course. Yes, of course.
Brought to you by United Way and the Ad Council.
Spring and summer are prime time for ticks that can spread Lyme disease and other infections. The Centers for Disease Control and Prevention would like to remind you to wear bug repellent when outdoors, shower as soon as possible after coming indoors, and check your whole body for ticks every day. If you've been bitten by a tick and develop fever, rash, or fatigue, seek medical care. To learn more, visit www.cdc.gov/Lyme.
Thank you for listening to the Massachusetts Reading Network, a window to independent life in your community from Cape Cod to the Berkshires.
This is volunteer reader Maureen, broadcasting from Marshfield, Massachusetts. Stay tuned for more coming your way next.
WRRS Middleborough, Pittsfield, WVBF Middleborough, WDJM Framingham, WUML Lowell, WLLO Londonderry.
We now invite you to join the Talking Information Center for Reader's Digest. It's headed your way next.
This is the Talking Information Center. Hello, and welcome to Reader's Digest magazine, as read by John Phillips. We're reading the July issues today. Let's start this article from the Life Well Lived section of Reader's Digest. His Bridge Over Troubled Waters. As a man goes blind, his friend watches his back. This is by Paul Hond, and this is from Columbia Magazine. One day, during his freshman year at Columbia University, Sanford Sandy Greenberg, class of 1962, stood on campus by a grassy plot with his classmate Arthur Garfunkel. Sanford, look at that patch of grass. You see the colors, the shapes, the way the blades blend? Garfunkel asked him. Greenberg was smitten. Other guys talked about girls and sports, but Garfunkel wanted to talk about a patch of grass. Was there a luckier guy on the campus in Greenburgh? Here he was, a poor kid from Buffalo, New York, on a full scholarship, taking classes from superstars such as anthropologist Margaret Mead, physicist Leon Letterman, historian James Shetton, and poet Mark Van Doren. And he had a great new pal, a brainy kid from New York City with a pure tenor voice. But in the summer of 1960, just before his junior year, Greenberg's fortune changed. He was in Buffalo playing baseball when his vision steamed up. He had to lie down on the grass until the clouds went away. The doctor said it was an allergic conjunctivitis. Back at school in the fall, Greenberg had more episodes, but he did not tell anyone. He didn't believe it was anything serious. Still, his roommates Garfunkel and Jerry Spire saw that he was having trouble. On the first morning of finals, Garfunkel escorted Greenberg to the university gym, where exams were being held. Greenberg started writing at 9 a.m. By 10:30, he couldn't see a thing. He lurched to the front of the gym and handed his blue book to his proctor. "I can't see it, sir," he said. The proctor laughed. "I've heard some terrific excuses," he said, "but yours is the best." Greenberg went back to Buffalo, where he received another diagnosis, glaucoma. That winter, doctors operated on Greenberg's eyes. The surgery did not work, and Greenberg was now going blind. He was so depressed that he refused to see anyone from college. But Garfunkel went to Buffalo anyways. "I don't want to talk," Greenberg said. "Sanford," said Garfunkel, "you must talk." Garfunkel persuaded Greenberg to go back to Columbia and offered to be his reader. In September 1961, Greenberg returned to campus. Garfunkel, Spire, and a third friend read textbooks to him, taking time from their own studies, and Greenberg ended up scoring straight A's. Still, he was tentative about getting around alone and relied on his friends to help him. Then one afternoon, Greenberg and Garfunkel went to a midtown Manhattan. When it was time for Greenberg to go back to campus, Garfunkel said he had an appointment and could not accompany him. Greenberg panicked. They argued and Garfunkel walked off, leaving Greenberg alone in Grand Central Terminal. Greenberg, bewildered, stumbled through the rush hour crowd. He took the shuttle train, went to Times Square, then transferred to an uptown train. 4 miles later, he got off at Columbia University stop. At the university gates, someone bumped into him. "Oops, excuse me, sir." Greenberg knew the voice. It was Garfunkel. Greenberg's first reaction was rage, but in the next second he realized what he had just accomplished, and he realized, too, who made it possible. It was one of his more brilliant strategies, Greenberg says. Arthur, of course, had been with me the entire time. After graduation, Greenberg got his MBA from Columbia and his PhD from Harvard. He married his girlfriend Sue, was a White House fellow in the Johnson administration, and went on to become a successful inventor and a businessman. Garfunkel went on to become Art Garfunkel. Recently, Greenberg recalled Garfunkel reading him Our Town, which he says was their manual for living. The play's message is that humans, caught up in the daily concerns, fail to appreciate life's beauty and preciousness. That's all human beings are, says the character Emily Webb Gibbs, a dead woman looking down upon the living and astonished by their folly. Just blind people. Not Greenberg. He sees everything, sings every blessing, great and small, for the love of his family and his friends to the dew-dappled grooves of the blade of grass. You are talking, he says today, to the luckiest man in the world. Again, that's from the Columbia Magazine. The edition is July 2016. For our next article in Reader's Digest, let's go to the technology section to read this article, Car Care Myths. Maybe you don't need your oil change so soon after all. This is from the Family Handyman. First up is premium fuel helps performance. Premium gas will not make a difference on any normal vehicle. Only cars built for less combustible fuel need it. Your manual will tell you if premium is required or just recommended, in which case you can save it and save some money. Here's another car care myth. I will get more gas if I fill up in the morning. The temperature of gasoline doesn't change much when the air is cooler, so you aren't saving any money by filling up in the cold. Next myth. Electric cars are more likely than conventional cars to catch fire. Well, there have been some concerns that the batteries in hybrids and electric cars might catch fire after a crash. The National Highway Traffic Safety Administration issued a report stating that these vehicles do not pose a greater risk of fire than the gas-powered ones. Next car care myth. I have to change my oil every 3,000 miles. You can actually wait much longer. Most modern cars can go 7,500 miles or more without fresh oil. Check your car's manual for the proper maintenance schedule. Well, I might as well change my coolant fluid and the air filters when I get my oil changed as well. The mechanic may recommend you change these out while they're at it, but it could be a waste. Again, check your manual. Finally, car care myth is driving with my tailgate down reduces drag on my truck, making it more fuel efficient. The TV show Mythbusters have tested this theory and found that trucks had more drag with the tailgate down than up. To really improve your efficiency, replace your tailgate with mesh. Now let's check in with this month's edition of Everyday Heroes. Our first story is The Doctor is Out. When his homeless patients can't get to a physician, he goes to them. By Jim Axelrod. This is from CBS News. It's Friday morning in Boston, which means Dr. Jim O'Connell is making his rounds. He might be more uncomfortable inside an exam room, but that is not where his patients are. O'Connell is one of the handful of physicians who are making house calls to the homeless in the city. More than 500,000 Americans are homeless, and many have health problems but no access to care. O'Connell and his team, made up of psychiatrists, internists, and a nurse practitioner, as well as a case manager and recovery coach, are doing something about it. They spend their days walking around where the homeless people live, in parks, under bridges, and on the outskirts of town. They treat about 700 regular patients. During these rounds, O'Connell usually sees about 20 patients. He knows where most of them sleep and whom to ask if they are missing. I feel like I'm a country doctor in the middle of the city. You know, he says. O'Connell went to Harvard Medical School and was on his way to a prestigious oncology fellowship when his chief suggested he take what was supposed to be a one-year position as the founding physician of a new health care program for Boston's homeless. That turned into a 33-year career at the Boston Health Care for the Homeless program, one of the country's largest of its kind. You realize, you know what, I'm just a doctor, and what I can do is I can get to know you and ease your suffering, just as I would as an oncologist, O'Connell said. You would not find a more grateful population. And his patients are grateful. This man is unbelievable, one remarked. He's like Jesus, another added. O'Connell dispensed just about everything from stitches to arms to surgery for the soul. If his patients cannot be treated on the street, he finds them a treatment bed at an organization's mental respite facility, a place for patients who are too sick to be on the street, but not ill enough for a hospital stay. Everything I've been taught to do in medical school, go fast, be efficient, was counterproductive when you take care of homeless people, O'Connell told Harvard University. When you see somebody outside, you get them a cup of coffee and you sit with them. Sometimes it takes 6 months or a year of offering a sandwich or a coffee before someone would start to talk to me. But once they engage, they'll come to you any time because they trust you. I often say that the best training I had for this job was about being a bartender, because it's all about listening. When asked how his life might have turned out had he been a highly paid oncologist, O'Connell says, I never think about that anymore. Some things are more valuable than money. Just ask the man who gets everything from patients and has nothing material to give. Again, that's an excerpt from CBS News, March 25th, 2017 edition. Our next Everyday Hero story is titled Planting Patriotism. This is also from CBS News. This is from Steve Hartman. Young boys aren't easily appalled, but 12-year-old Preston Sharp sure knows the feeling. Yes, I was surprised, Preston said, and disappointed. Preston's mom, April Sharp, had never seen him like that before. Not that angry and passionate, she said. What upset her son so much was visiting his grandpa's grave in Redding, California, and realizing that every veteran in the cemetery had a flag. So April told him, son, if you're going to complain about something, you're going to have to do something about it, or let it go. Next thing April knew, Preston was taking on odd jobs and soliciting donations to buy flags and flowers for every veteran in his grandpa's cemetery. And when that cemetery was covered, he moved on to another, and then another. Here we are, nearly 3 years later, and an estimated 65,000 graves later. And he does it every week, rain or shine, especially in the rain. They're out there in the rain doing their job protecting us, Preston says. His devotion is contagious. When word gets out that Preston will be at a cemetery, he has a Facebook page, Preston Sharp Vet Flags and Flowers. Folks feel compelled to join in. People like Vietnam veteran Fred Loveland. It's amazing, Loveland said. What he's doing brings them out because they can't believe a young man in this country is doing what he does. It's a movement of young and old, of those who served and those who are grateful that they did, all led by a proud grandson who saw an injustice and decided to do something about it. Again, that's from CBS News, the edition June 9th, 2017. For our next article, let's read from the Art of Living section, 12 Foods with Extra Healing Power. This is from the book Foods That Harm, Foods That Heal. You might know that the fiber in apples and broccoli helps ward off diabetes and heart disease. that the antioxidants in berries have anti-cancer powers, and that the protein in lean meat builds muscle. But did you know that flax seeds can reduce hot flashes? Or that pumpkins are one of the foods tolerated by Crohn's sufferers? Here are 12 more foods that are even healthier than you knew. Asparagus for your high blood pressure. Asparagus contains the natural diuretic asparagine, which helps your body get rid of excess fluid and salt. This is helpful for people with edema caused by high blood pressure. Plus, the vitamin B in asparagus can help fight cognitive decline and depression. If you have gout, though, keep your consumption to a minimum. Asparagus contains purines, which can precipitate painful attacks. Next up is tea for infections. A chemical in tea, L-theanine, expands gamma-delta T cells, immune blood cells that form the body's first line of defense against all types of infections, by up to 50-fold. Tea can, however, cut iron absorption by more than 80% when it's sipped with an iron-rich meal. Drinking your tea between meals or adding lemon minimizes that effect. Next is pork for energy. Pork is a major source of thiamine, a B vitamin that is instrumental in the conversion of carbohydrates into energy for the body and brain. It's also critical for heart, muscle, and nervous system functions. And the zinc in pork will help boost the immune system, build protein, and heal wounds. Our next food with extra healing power is onions for lung cancer. A Journal of the National Cancer Institute study reports on the significant correlation between a high intake of dietary flavonoids, such as those found in onions, and a reduced risk of lung cancer. Onions may also help you boost your good HDL cholesterol. Next is cheese for dental health. The fat naturally contained in most cheeses coats your teeth and acts as a natural barrier for bacteria, against bacteria. Cheese also contains casein, a protein that provides natural tooth protection. But aged cheeses, such as blue cheese or Camembert, can trigger migraines for some people. Next is lemons and limes for kidney stones. The citric acid in lemon and lime juices help stave off some kinds of kidney stones by reducing the excretion of calcium in your urine. Lemon rind is also rich with the compound called rutin, which can strengthen the walls of the veins and capillaries, potentially reducing the pains and severity of the varicose veins. Next food for extra healing health is apricots for your eye health. Apricots, especially when dried, contain a lot of beta-carotene, which may help prevent cataracts and other age-related macular degeneration. Plus, dried apricots are high in iron and potassium, which are essential for nerve and muscle functions. Next is bananas for depression and anxiety. A medium banana has 30% of the recommended daily intake of vitamin B6, which helps the brain produce mellowing serotonin. It also gives you tryptophan, which relieves depression and anxiety. One curious caution: bananas, along with papayas and avocados, for that matter, can trigger an allergic reaction to people who are sensitive to latex. Our next food with good healing power, extra healing power, is mustard for good bones. Mustard contains manganese and phosphorus, which contribute to strong bones and teeth. Mustard also provides calcium, which may protect against cancer and heart disease, and magnesium, which can help reduce inflammation, blood pressure, and blood sugar. Bran is good for diverticulitis, including wheat bran, in which high-fiber diet can help prevent diverticulitis, an intestinal disorder in which the small pockets bulging from the colon wall become infected or inflamed. However, the citric acid in raw bran inhibits the body's absorption of calcium, iron, zinc, and other important minerals. Next is papyrus for arthritis. One medium-sized papaya produces more than twice the daily recommended dose of vitamin C, and a study found that those who ate the lowest amounts of vitamin C-rich food developed rheumatoid arthritis at more than 3 times the rate of those who consumed higher amounts. Our final food of 12 foods with extra healing power is beets. Beets for a better brain. Beets produce nitric oxide, which helps to increase blood flow throughout your body and through your brain, which in turn may help reduce the risk of developing Alzheimer's and vascular dementia. But beet greens, which have the leafy tops, are high in oxalides, which can form small crystals and contribute to the formation of some kidney stones. Again, these all came from the book Foods That Harm, Foods That Heal. For more healing foods, you can check this book out, Foods That Harm, Foods That Heal. It's available at rdstore.com and also wherever books are sold. Our next article is from the family section. A will can ensure your loved ones will inherit your assets, but how will you pass on your history? Making memories last forever. This is by Laura A. Roser, and this is from Kiplinger.com. My father wrote me a lovely letter before he died. It is the most cherished thing I owned. That's what a woman I was advising once told me, and I've heard similar statements from others. But I've also heard the opposite. I wish I'd taken the time to ask my mother about her life before she died, or, it's sad, I really didn't know my grandparents, and they left nothing behind but a few photos. Don't let your possessions become the only representation of your life. Your thoughts, your heritage, your life journeys are equally valuable. They become the foundation on which family members build their lives. Studies conducted at Emory University have shown that kids who know more about their family's past are more empathetic, have better coping skills, and have higher self-esteem. For older adults, other research shows that passing on their life stories correlates to a decrease in depression. Of course, financial assets are relatively easy to pass along because they're already contained in a physical form, and the legal vehicle used to transfer it from the heirs are well established. The challenge with character and intellectual assets is giving them the same kind of physicality as your financial assets. Even though your mother's love, memories of summers at your grandparents' house, and lessons you've learned along your life may be more important than your car, there is still the problem of turning those feelings, thoughts, and insights into something that can be passed on. Here's some tips to help you get started. Create an inventory. Before you begin, take stock of what you got. If you want to pass along family stories or wisdom, list everything available to you, such as photos, letters from your parents, and figure out what you still need to collect. You could, for example, interview your parents about their lives and their families and write an article about your daughter's birth. Be specific. Next is to make a plan. Once you know what you've got and what you need, make a list of the details of how you're going to produce what you're missing, via photographs or recordings. Include how you intend to distribute everything and to whom, and how it will all be archived. And include it in your include it in your overall estate plan. You don't want the book of your life stories lost in an attic because someone misplaced it. Finally, take simple steps. A legacy is one of those things that are important but rarely urgent until it's too late. By taking proactive steps and starting with the easiest to create projects, you can bring your legacy to life. For example, let's say you'd like to write a memoir, but you haven't gotten around to it. Break the task into smaller parts, or start something simpler like writing a short article about your childhood, or filming a 2-minute video about your wedding day.